I sort of started a topic yesterday of remorse. And today I'm going to actually talk about it. And I'm going to title this Remorse, Ethical Sensitivity. So I'm feeling something akin to remorse around the actions of our political leadership, deep pain for the course of action that they're taking. And maybe it's better named ethical sensitivity, feeling pain at the pain others give out. The word remorse has been with me for a long time, though I haven't always known what to do with it. I was raised in a religion where I saw a lot of hypocrisy, and I was idealistic in my searching and also very literal, maybe not very realistic in my spiritual searching. But by the time I found Buddhism, I was mature enough to understand that spiritual practice is developed. It's something that we cultivate, that um, uh, we we basically train in. The teachings are trainings, the Dharma teachings, and we don't do them perfectly. But honestly, it's only in the last 10 years that we started to language the Dharma in a less idealistic way. Imperfect and provisional have been running alongside our translations. And it's a positive difference in the way I integrate Dharma and meditation into my life and into our teachings. In Buddhism, the teaching of remorse pay, uh, plays an important role in ethical sensitivity. And regret and remorse are sometimes distinguished in Buddhist teachings. Some texts say that regret spins stories, while remorse learns and moves on. But as reflective meditators, I don't want to draw that line too tightly, especially in meditation practice. I often see regret and remorse operate in similar ways. They alert us to something that's been handled less skillfully than we wanted, or to where greater harm has been done than we thought. And yesterday, when I brought up the topic, I had a surprising memory surface in my meditation. Years ago, I ended some work I was doing with a physical therapist. She was really upset. And I didn't handle it very skillfully, though I did my best at the time. She's still in proximity and in my life. And I felt a pang of that remorse again in my meditation. But something was different yesterday. And along with that discomfort, there was the knowledge that I'm now more conscious about endings, about when things start to fall apart, when they shift, and acknowledge that there's more unknown than I can see at the moment. I didn't really know that in the same way when I ended things with her. So that learning has stayed with me, and it actually influences how I act now. So yesterday I had mentioned that the Buddha talked about remorse as a kind of wound cleaning. I said that you don't have to keep poking the wound to prove you care. You can move on and integrate what you've learned. This round, it didn't feel like a poking a wound. It felt like another round of cleaning, though, because it came with some other things, some knowledge and validation that I hadn't had before this. So this distinction, it works for me in our practice because we don't consciously choose when regret or remorse comes up. We find it often surprisingly that past wounds and hurts are again in our meditation, and we're reviewing them, looking at them from different angles, being with them and in the way that our mind and body works now. Most of the time, I do pay attention to those surfacings, but I also have to discern when is it necessary to pay attention to them and when is it just too much cleaning. Um, and this is not always quick and easy process. So what I'm trying to get at, though, it's a little something outside of the traditional teaching on remorse. So I'm trying to bring in some experience that I have, this sensitivity in relation to others. I'm deeply affected by hypocrisy and ill will. So I feel the upset and pain, not only for the people who are hurt, but also for the people who are creating the hurt. And many times it starts with shock, like, I can't believe this is happening, along with fear and alarm, and anger. Um, but then I find myself feeling the dukkha of their actions, especially as I did growing up so close to people with aggressive tendencies. I feel pain not just for what they're doing, but for where it may lead. In my childhood religion, it was surely to hell. And even in religious Buddhism, uses the hell realms as their terminology. Hell sometimes seems a simplified version of living in ignorance and continuing to cause suffering with no desire for transformation. Anyway, I'm not going to go too far into pinning down hell today. That doesn't seem like a productive use of my time. But I'm kind of trying to get at this remorse that I'm talking about. It feels akin to remorse for my own actions, but this time it's remorse on the behalf of others. So we do have a word for resonating with someone's joy, a teaching, mudita. It's a Brahma Vihara. You feel something like that, uplift, because you know the person is going in a positive direction and they're, contributing well to life and to others. So this feels like something like that, but a bit of a reverse, a sensitivity to the suffering that actions are going to generate, even when the people acting don't seem to feel it themselves. It's not sublime feeling, I would say, or an attribute, but it's something distinct. And it's more in knowledge reveals pain. Some of our knowledge really shows us more of the suffering of the world. And this, to me, goes along with the ethical sensitivity that pairs with a kind of powerlessness, helplessness that we feel standing by and watching dukkha unfold, knowing that it's not in a good direction. I used to say, I know it will go in a bad direction. No, I knew this will go badly, but I try not to lean that way anymore. And what I feel more now is in the weight of uncertainty. I don't know where that action will lead, and the pain of not being able to intervene in the way I might want to, or the anguish of things getting worse before they get better, is something I have to hold with this understanding. So I went back to the sutta that kind of started me on this, the Kimathaya Sutta, and I decided not to use it today. It started to lead me in the direction for something that felt too idealistic and too perfect, an idea that we're going to be freed from remorse, rather than looking at remorse as having a functional role in our lives. And I prefer to leave it as a kind of wound healing, which may turn into a scar, but is something that we have access to and can use, and refer to in how we next choose our actions. So can it work, since I've extended it from myself to feeling it for others, but can it work also in the same way in our collective history, that we can actually feel remorse at what we've done as a country, done as large groups of people? Many historians are speaking to that now and offering their ideas how to learn from that in the past. And I want to integrate some of that knowledge into what we know, into our Dharma practice and teachings. And this is one attempt, and I'll say, albeit provisional and imperfect. Okay, I will end there.